really important that people and companies start realizing if they do teleconferences or video conferences, they can really get back to their normal lives and not have to always be gone at work if they could do a simple meeting over the computer. We're going to talk to you about different types of video conferences, the main 5 types that are used in the industry today.
Like Lacey said, there are several types of video conferencing. One that I use frequently and that we're coming to you from right now is called Live Meeting. It's a Microsoft application. It allows you to send a conference code to your participants. You can share your screen, have multiple presenters. You can send invites from Microsoft Outlook, so it works seamlessly with your calendar functionality. And my use of it has, I've really had success with.
A second type would be FaceTime. This is primarily designed by Apple. Any internet or any Apple product that is running on iOS software or newer has the availability to FaceTime. So anything from the iPhone 4 and on, any of the iPad, iPad 2, any of those products, you can FaceTime directly from the iPad, from your phone, from a Mac. It's handy, but it's only between 2 people, so it's not necessarily a full conference if you're needing to get a lot of people involved.
Another form is Microsoft Lync, which is another form that I use quite often. You can use instant message. You can actually have a phone conversation through Lync. You can also share your screen, so if you're speaking to a client or an end user, you can be on the phone with them and share your screen at the same time. It also has webcam capabilities, so you can be looking at them face to face.
One that I use all the time at the company that I work for is WebEx. WebEx isn't actually over video most of the time. It's just for like a training program. So it's used mainly when you're wanting to share your desktop with other people. We use it a lot in our training seminars between offices since we don't want to fly out to have different training sessions. On WebEx, you can have a meeting center, a training center, and it has the availability for people to click a button to raise their hand if they have a question. It's a really good way to share your desktop, and then you can have different people run the program so each person gets experience while having the leader watch what they're doing so they can physically see if they're doing something wrong without having to be there with them.
The last form we're going to go over is Skype. It's a free application. You can go to the internet and sign up for an account. It's really great for conferencing or interviewing for potential employees that could be in another state. So it's a much cheaper version than flying in potential employers. We just did a Skype interview with a potential coder in Atlanta last week.
The next step that we're going to be going over is the prep work, stuff that you need to get done before actually having a video conference or a teleconference with somebody. The first thing you really should focus on is your appearance or your attire. It's very distracting if you're on a video conference and someone is wearing a really busy shirt or something that has a lot of patterns on it. It takes the focal point away from the person and what they're saying. So we suggest you wear a very neutral shirt, solid colors, pastel. Don't wear contrasting colors like black and white together. It could be very distracting to the eye. And also avoid your reds as they tend to bleed onto the computer screen.
The next step is to make sure that you've worked with all of the equipment before. You need to be familiar with all of the equipment you're using and make sure you're completely comfortable. So if you need to run through your presentation a few times, that's always better than running into an error when you're transitioning through screens or your camera doesn't work or your microphone doesn't work. It's better to know how to use those things before your presentation rather than having your end users or your staff wait for you while you're trying to figure out your technical issues.
Preparation of the meeting itself. Know exactly who you want in the meeting. Know if they know how to log on to the meeting so that you can get the meeting started on time rather than waiting for everyone to get logged in. Make sure all your participants know exactly where to go, what to do, and everything to be included in that meeting. Before the meeting, you should have a memo or an agenda sent out to them so they know exactly what's going to be discussed. If they have questions, they can jot them down on the agenda so that they don't forget to ask them during the presentation. and also a timeline so they know basically how long they can be expected to be on this meeting in case they have other work that needs to get done around the time of the meeting.
Finally, you want to consider your environment. To have a successful video conference, you want to make sure that you have this correct environment. Make sure you close the blinds. Any overhead lights that can cause reflections on the cameras. You also want to turn off any lights that could be distracting. Make sure you don't have any objects that could be distracting to you or to your audience. And also make sure you turn off your any sounds or phones, anything like that. It's also important to mute your microphone if you're not speaking, and make sure you have your microphone placed properly on the table before the conference so you're not moving the microphone around during your conference. Finally, if you notice in the background, we have a white background, so it's suggested that you either have a white background or you sit under your company's logo. If you're presenting from home, make sure you don't have anything distracting going on in the background, like your cat or a bird or any rustling of the curtains. Next, we're going to go to what happens when you're actually presenting.
During the presentation, the first thing you always want to do is introduce yourself. I know a lot of video conferences, they might be within one company, they might be multiple companies, so you might not necessarily know everyone who is on the video conference. As the presenter, you want to introduce yourself. Let them know who you are, what your objectives are, what your company is, and exactly what you plan on doing with this meeting so they know exactly what to expect and who they're expecting it from. Like I said earlier, you want to have an agenda. You might briefly want to go over that agenda, just saying, no, I plan on talking about this for this amount of time. If it doesn't have it broken down in the agenda originally, you might tell them exactly what to expect from what you're presenting. If they have any questions, you want to make sure that they can ask them at any time. But most importantly, you want to speak clearly and speak slowly. If you want to speak naturally, sorry, we're almost done. I'm sorry. You want to speak clear at all times and just relax. It's really hard to do a video conference if there's other things going on around you. So just make sure that you know what you're talking about, have all of the information in front of you so that when you are presenting, you don't seem to ramble like I just did for the last 30 seconds.
There are potential delays with any sort of online usage or webcams. You'll also notice that Lacey and I have an example for you when using FaceTime. There's a delay in the conversation. So allow the on-screen presenter to finish talking before you respond. And when you're finished speaking, you should also leave a pause to allow for comments. So you can allow others to chime in when they need to. That goes back to encouraging comments. If you are not speaking, make sure that your microphone is on mute. Before you start presenting, make sure you unmute your microphone so everyone can hear you and you're not just lip talking. Microphone etiquette is always important. The microphones are often close to you, so you want to make sure you're not shuffling any papers, tapping your fingers, or clicking any pins. It could be distracting for you and for those watching the conference. Finally, at the end, you want to encourage questions. So once you're done presenting, it's always important to engage your audience, ask for any questions, and again, always try to account for any delays. Finally, if you're sharing any graphics across the screen, like what Lacey and I have been doing, if you have multiple presenters, make sure that only one presenter is sharing a graphic at a time so it's not confusing and the users know what to look at. So that wraps up our presentation. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we'd like to open up the floor right now.
Thank you.